Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Wednesday, October 8th. The Pittsburgh Steelers have their first full practice of Week 6 as they prepare to face the Cleveland Browns at home this Sunday. They had a bonus practice on Monday, but the first full practice session today. I will be over at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex a little bit later, watching practice, gathering from the locker room there with Ed Thompson. By the way, great week for Ed Thompson. If you're not following him already, give him a follow at Thompson Photo 12. Steelers made two signings this week. Both were players to the practice squad. Both were players that had been with the Carolina Panthers this preseason, which meant they had in their career played like 12 preseason snaps against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was like, Eddie, any chance you guys, you got a picture of Raheem Blackshear or Jack Henderson? No problem. Had them both. And then yesterday, Mike Tomlin was talking about Quinshon Judkins in his press conference. And before I could even go to the group text, there's Ed sending me photos of Tomlin and Judkins together from the Ohio State Pro Day. Nothing gets past his lens. So give him a follow if you haven't already. Today, I am answering a question from a dear member of our audience, Randy Tobias, who wants to know, Alan, what the heck is a Wham block? It sounds like a band from the 80s. Well, Wham, W-H-A-M, Randy, both the George Michael fronted British pop rock band and the block and play that the block is named for have the H in there. And I don't want any crap about Smitty and I's Taylor Swift conversation if we're going to bring up Wham here in terms of embarrassing musical tastes. They don't rate. So Wham is a block that is named after the signature block on a play that's also called Wham, that is a variation of a play called trap. So we're going to start with what's a trap. Now, there are many, many, many kinds of trap. I'm just going to show you a very basic one here. We got the whiteboard out. It's a Wednesday. I know you all love it. So the idea of a trap is you're going to take one defensive lineman. We're going to trap this end right here and make him think you're not blocking him, but you really are. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to block away from that player. This tackle is going to block down. This guard is probably going to get up to the second level. All right. This center is going to block down. This tackle is going to block down. Tight end is going to block out. And we are going to bring the guard around like this. Okay. So you have a pulling guard. All right. So what's going to happen is this defensive lineman is going to get upfield and he's going to start looking at the running back because he's going to think, they forgot to block me. I'm all alone. Here it comes. I want to make the play. And then wham, here comes big old nasty right guard with a full head of steam right in his ear hole. Okay. That's the Wham. That's a trap. Okay. And the trap is you think you're not getting blocked. You get upfield and then you get got. By the way, also, if the DN gets too far upfield and the running back beats him, now you got a lead backer on the linebacker. And now you get a huge play. Okay. Usually when you run a trap, you're going to kind of run up behind this trap block. Okay. This pulling guard. That's trap. Very similarly to trap is Wham. Okay. Now we're blocking the same. We're going to trap the same defensive lineman. We're just going to do it with the tight end or the fullback or the H-back, sniffer, whatever you want to call this guy over here. All right, so we're still trapping here. Maybe let's do it this way this time. Let's get the tackle out at the second level on the linebacker, and then let's block down here. We'll double to the middle linebacker there, and we'll leave the backside linebacker unblocked. Okay, so again, we're getting this. We're leaving this guy unblocked, and our running back is going to run this way, right at this unblocked defensive lineman. But we're going to bring this fullback in motion along the line of scrimmage, and then he is going to kick out right here on this unblocked defensive lineman. This block where you have this fullback, running back, tight end, whatever kind of player running with a head of steam, usually with motion, and hitting this unsuspecting defensive lineman who thinks he's coming free, that's your Wham right there. And this play is called Wham, where you run a trap with this blocker. The term has now been borrowed to really signify any kind of block where you're using the same idea of motion from an H-back, tight end, fullback kind of player across the flow of the formation to make a block at the line of scrimmage. That's a win. You can do a similar concept with a receiver who can come down and block an edge rusher. It's all the same idea, is to get a player in motion and use that motion and power to let them make a block that they probably wouldn't be able to make otherwise. You heard Mike Tomlin talk yesterday about how, like, you don't let tight ends block edge rushers. And that's true. No one is sending, even, I don't know who you think the best tight end in the NFL is, George Kittle, out there against Myles Garrett, lined up head-to-head, 3-point stance versus 3-point stance, 2-point stance, whatever, and saying, okay, block this guy. But if you trap him and you get George Kittle with a head of steam at an unsuspecting Myles Garrett, then you can block him, right? Traps and whams don't work against every defense. You have to be trapping a player that will want to get upfield. If you're trying to trap against a 3-4 team, you can't. You can't trap a 2-gapping player, because a 2-gapping player, a player head up on a, is just going to hit the offensive lineman in front of them, stop, and look to see which way the runner back is going to go. This way, this way. That's all he wants to do. If you don't block him, he's not going anywhere. He's just going to stay right there in his gap and say, all right, come on, I'm going to get you. You have to have a lineman that wants to get upfield and pursue the play to trap someone, or it doesn't work. So it can work against certain defenses. It doesn't work against a lot of defenses. It doesn't really work against the Steelers defense very well. It does happen to work against the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think that is a prescient. I love taking questions. I don't take every question. This one is an interesting question. What's a wham block? You may have heard it. Also, you may see it this week. When Mike Tomlin said very clearly it's not fair to ask Pat Freiermuth or Connor Hayward to block Myles Garrett, I said, yeah, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I would never do that. But I would totally have Connor Hayward run the old flying meatball across the formation and deck him in the ear hole when he's not looking. Yeah, absolutely. He's good at that. And you can use the reason the wham block is so popular is because it takes disadvantages of blockers away. When you're lined up in a stance, things like arm length and leverage and play strength are really important, right? If you can get your hands on me before I can get my hands on you, that's a huge advantage in defeating a block. And like Connor Hayward has shorter arms than most tight ends, all tackles, and all defensive ends. So if you put him in a 3-point stance and he comes out and goes like this, he's already beat. But you let him get a running start? Yeah, I'll take my chances. Then speed becomes power. Then you can use a player who maybe is not ideally suited to be a blocker to block even the team's most dangerous defensive lineman. Now, you can't do this all the time. You can, but you have to vary who you're trapping and who you're pulling. The Steelers in the 1970s and 1980s used to trap with the center. They would trap with both guards. They would, and that trapping offensive lineman has to be really athletic. Now, the Steelers do have athletic offensive linemen. They have used trap in the past. I'm not sure we saw a lot of it last year with Arthur Smith. Matt Canada definitely ran some trap, I remember. Najee Harris was fairly good at running the trap play. I'm not sure how much I remember Jaylen Warren doing it. It's not crazy to me, though, that we could see the Steelers run some trap or some wham against the Browns and Bengals, because I think when you have as many offensive linemen as the Steelers have been using, when you're talking about 6 offensive linemen plus Darnell Washington, you can do that. But there are real passing game downsides to that. And when you look at what the Cleveland Browns have done defensively, they've really stopped the run, even though they're second in rushing yards against. They're also second in time trailing. So they've been trailing more than almost any other team in the league, and yet no one's able to run against them. That means teams are finding ways, or the Browns are finding ways to have success in obvious run situations. They're just putting heavier personnel out there. So I don't think what the Steelers did to the Minnesota Vikings is going to work against the Cleveland Browns the way it did. It might be okay, but I think this is an idea for a second wrinkle that I think has some merit. We'll see if Arthur Smith decides to go down that road. That's it for this morning. Back on Afternoon Drive. I don't know if Smitty's back yet. He's still under the weather, but we'll have someone as a co-host. And then, of course, we'll have a night shift with Joe Borson, 8 p.m. as well here on the YouTube channel. Until then, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.